Welcome to LuckScout Economic News. The U.S. economy is facing a confluence of challenges, with inflation being one of the most pressing issues. Inflation, a persistent rise in the general price level, has been stubbornly high, affecting nearly every aspect of daily life. This erodes purchasing power, making it harder for households to afford essential goods and services. Families are finding it increasingly difficult to make ends meet. The Consumer Price Index, or CPI, a key measure of inflation, has shown significant increases over the past year, reflecting the rising costs of goods and services. This indicates that consumers are paying more for a wide range of goods and services, from groceries to household items, putting additional pressure on their finances. The rising cost of living is putting a strain on household budgets, forcing many to cut back on non-essential spending and prioritize their expenses. The Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States, has a dual mandate to maintain price stability and promote maximum employment. In response to rising inflation, the Fed has been raising interest rates. These rate hikes are intended to cool down the economy and bring inflation under control, but they also come with their own set of challenges. Higher interest rates can lead to increased borrowing costs for businesses and consumers, potentially slowing down economic growth. Small businesses in particular may struggle with higher loan repayments. The impact of inflation is not just economic but also social, as it can lead to increased public discontent and calls for policy changes. The government and policymakers are under pressure to find effective solutions to mitigate the effects of inflation on everyday life. The trade deficit, the difference between a country's imports and exports, has been widening in the United States over the past few decades. This means that the value of goods and services imported exceeds the value of those exported, creating an imbalance in trade. A widening trade deficit can have significant implications for economic growth and stability. It can lead to job losses in domestic industries that face competition from cheaper imports, affecting the livelihoods of many workers. It can also put downward pressure on the value of the US dollar, making it less competitive in the global market. Factors contributing to the trade deficit include the strong US dollar, which makes imports cheaper and exports more expensive, thus exacerbating the deficit. Additionally, global supply chain disruptions have impacted trade flows, causing delays and increasing costs for businesses. Policymakers and economists are concerned about the long-term effects of a persistent trade deficit on the nation's economic health. Small businesses and local manufacturers often struggle to compete with the influx of imported goods, which can lead to closures and reduced economic activity in local communities. While consumers may benefit from lower prices on imported goods, the broader economic impact can be detrimental. Addressing the trade deficit requires a multifaceted approach, including trade policies that promote fair competition and support for domestic industries. Encouraging innovation and technological advancements in domestic industries can help mitigate the negative effects of the trade deficit and promote sustainable economic growth. The Fed's Balancing Act, taming inflation without triggering a recession. This is a critical and complex task that requires a nuanced approach. The Federal Reserve faces a delicate balancing act. It must navigate the fine line between controlling inflation and maintaining economic stability. It aims to curb inflation without causing a sharp economic downturn. This involves a series of calculated moves and strategic decisions. Raising interest rates can slow down inflation by reducing borrowing and spending. When interest rates go up, it becomes more expensive to borrow money, which can cool off an overheated economy. However, raising rates too quickly or aggressively can stifle economic growth and potentially lead to a recession. This is because higher interest rates can discourage investment and spending, leading to a slowdown in economic activity. The Fed must carefully calibrate its monetary policy decisions to achieve its goals. This involves analyzing a wide range of economic indicators and making informed predictions about future economic conditions. The Fed's actions have implications for businesses and consumers alike. Businesses may find it more challenging to finance new projects, while consumers might face higher costs for loans and credit. Higher interest rates can make it more expensive for businesses to borrow money for investment and expansion. This can slow down business growth and innovation. Consumers may also face higher borrowing costs for mortgages, car loans, and credit cards. This can reduce consumer spending, which is a key driver of economic growth. The Fed's challenge is to find the right balance to ensure a stable and healthy economy. The global economic outlook is uncertain, with multiple challenges and risks on the horizon. The war in Ukraine, ongoing supply chain disruptions, and rising inflation are among the key factors contributing to this uncertainty. The International Monetary Fund has downgraded its global growth forecast, citing these headwinds. The IMF expects global growth to slow down in 2023 and 2024. The interconnectedness of the global economy means that economic events in one region can have ripple effects across the world. Policymakers and businesses need to navigate these uncertain waters carefully. Europe is facing an economic slowdown, driven by a combination of factors. The energy crisis, triggered by the war in Ukraine, has led to soaring energy prices, putting a strain on businesses and households. Inflation has also been surging in Europe, eroding consumer purchasing power. The European Central Bank has been raising interest rates to combat inflation, but this could further dampen economic growth. The slowdown in Europe has implications for the global economy. Europe is a major trading partner for many countries, and a slowdown in European demand could impact global trade flows. South Africa is grappling with a number of economic challenges. High unemployment, particularly among young people, is a persistent problem. Inequality remains high, with a significant gap between the rich and the poor. Economic growth has been sluggish in recent years, hampered by structural issues such as electricity shortages and skills mismatches in the labor market. The COVID-19 pandemic has further exacerbated these challenges. The South African government is implementing various policies to address these issues, including job creation programs and investments in infrastructure. However, significant challenges remain. The global economy is a complex and interconnected system. Economic events in one part of the world can have ripple effects across borders, impacting trade, investment, and financial markets. For example, the war in Ukraine has had a significant impact on global energy prices, inflation, and supply chains. Similarly, economic policies implemented by major economies such as the United States and China can have global implications. Understanding the interplay of these global forces is crucial for businesses, policymakers, and investors. It allows them to anticipate potential risks and opportunities and make informed decisions. Consumer sentiment is a key indicator of economic health. It reflects consumers' confidence in the economy and their willingness to spend money. When consumers are confident, they are more likely to make purchases, which drives economic growth. Conversely, when consumers are pessimistic about the economy, they tend to cut back on spending, which can slow down economic growth. Factors that can influence consumer sentiment include inflation, unemployment, and interest rates. Monitoring consumer sentiment can provide valuable insights into the health of the economy and help policymakers and businesses make informed decisions. The road ahead for the global economy is uncertain, with a number of potential risks and challenges. Inflation remains a concern, and central banks around the world are grappling with how to tame it without triggering a recession. The war in Ukraine continues to pose a significant risk, with the potential to further disrupt energy markets and supply chains. Geopolitical tensions and trade disputes also cloud the outlook. Additionally, climate change is an increasingly pressing issue, with the potential to cause economic damage through extreme weather events and disruptions to agriculture and infrastructure. In this challenging economic environment, policymakers have a crucial role to play in navigating the challenges and seizing opportunities. Fiscal policy, which involves government spending and taxation, can be used to support economic growth and address inequality. Monetary policy, which is controlled by central banks, can be used to manage inflation and support financial stability. Structural reforms, such as investments in education, infrastructure, and innovation, can boost long-term economic growth. International cooperation is also essential to address global challenges, such as climate change, pandemics, and financial crises. By working together, countries can achieve better outcomes for their citizens. The global economy is facing a confluence of challenges, from inflation and geopolitical tensions to climate change and inequality. Addressing these challenges requires a coordinated and sustainable approach. Governments, businesses, and individuals all have a role to play in building a more resilient and inclusive global economy. This includes investing in sustainable technologies, promoting fair trade practices, and supporting policies that promote economic opportunity for all. By working together, we can navigate the current economic headwinds and create a more prosperous and sustainable future for all.